I was shy because I was always afraid that like my voice, I didn't want to be too loud. I didn't want to bother people. PCAP is so much fun. If you don't like doing it, you suck. Like, I don't know. It's just, you are absolutely allowed to break rules. They should be broken. But you cannot break them unless you know what they are. It really is not personal. If you are right for something, you were right. If you felt they loved you, they probably did. And you will get the good news if it's your role. Just do your job and let it go. It's not gonna happen the way you think. And it's gonna be so hard in a way that you don't understand, but it's gonna be so rewarding.
Hello, and welcome to the Actors Volume. I'm Jeff Berg.
And I'm Matthew Brzezina.
Together, we sit down with our friends, colleagues, and mentors to ask them about their journey, the challenges, and the standards they set for success within the mocap industry. I approach the interviews from an actor perspective.
And I bring a production perspective to these conversations. Today, we're here at Rouge Mocap's Volume to introduce our next guest, Jee Young Han.
That's right. Jee is an incredible actress, spanning TV, film, and performance capture. Matthew and I had the pleasure of working in the volume with her on Dragon Age: The Veilguard, and what stands out is her authenticity. She brings raw, relatable energy to every role while staying true to herself.
Ever since working with Jee, I always wanted to interview her, not just because her performances were captivating and she was always on point, but because I could tell how hard of a worker she was. And after interviewing her, I realized just how much her work ethic has contributed to her success, both professionally and personally. Yet despite working as hard as she does, she still always finds a way to have an absolute blast on set and makes everything fun for everyone.
This episode is a must listen for any actor. You'll hear Jee talk about how to navigate the industry's highs and lows, how to really connect with the material on the script, and many different ways on how to find opportunities that benefit your career.
Please enjoy our discussion with the delightful Jee Young Han. And if you've learned something by the end of the episode, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share Jee's story with a friend. Now please enjoy our show.
Hi, Jee. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome, Jee.
Hi, hello.
Yes, it's so good to see you again. It's been a
so
long
good
time.
to see you. It has been a while. Jeff's hair's long, my hair's short. Matt's hair is exactly the same. Has
Pretty much, yeah.
not gone up or down at all.
You've got some
Pretty
crazy
much.
bling on your hands.
I do
so
have some
congrats.
crazy bling. Thank you so much.
Do you say fiance all the time now? My fiance.
It feels a little foolish to say the word fiance. It is like it's like when you randomly like speak a different language. Like when people like say anything French sounding, it's just like chill, like relax. Like someone says like, I want a croissant. I'm like, just chill, just chill, you know? So fiance is like such a fancy word, but it's like an interim word, right? Like a word you like, it's very easy to get used to the word boyfriend, girlfriend, even partner, husband. But the interim word, like giving a new title to someone in your life that you've already given a title to, that's going to go away, ideally, as long as everything goes to plan. Fiance feels a little stuffy. It's like kind of on par with saying foodie. I don't like when people call themselves a foodie because it just means they eat at nice restaurants. Like, you know, like my mom she's too cheap to go to a nice restaurant, but she loves food. And I would say she is a lover of food, but she's not like the definition of a foodie. So fiance is a little funky.
So it sounds like you've had quite the life change and event. And I'm curious, like in your life, one thing that Jeff and I really dig into is the beginning of things. So let's rewind all the way back to kind of when you were first introduced into acting. Because was it something you always wanted to do?
I have a very funky story of how I got into acting. It's so funny. I was a very shy girl when I was younger. And usually this is the part where people are like, and then I found the stage, but it's not real. That's not what happened. I was very quiet, studious, shy. I was a freshman in high school and I I had to go watch the school play for like English credit. And I watched it, and it was Taming of the Shrew. And this is the part of the story that an actor says, and I heard Shakespeare and it changed my life. But that is not what happened. I did love the play. It was very excellent. But I had a crush on the lead guy who played Petruchio. And I was just so smitten. And he was older than me. He was a junior when I was a freshman. And I just wanted to like get a date. Like, and I didn't know how to, like, I just wanted to be close to him. Like, I was so head over heels, like smitten. So the only thing I could think of was to join drama. And there just happened to be auditions a couple months later for the following year to be in the advanced drama class. And I didn't even think, like, there's no part of me that was like, oh, I don't even know if I want to audition. I don't even know if I'm good. I just went and I did it, and I somehow got in. Like, it's like the lamest high school, like, romantic comedy you can see. Just like, I love him so much, and I'm going to base my entire personality and interests on this person. And somehow it changed. And yeah, that's kind of how I joined drama. I think the acting bug clicked in because I just happened to go to a school that had a really wonderful drama program.
And where was the school at?
This is Walnut High School in Walnut, California, the suburbs. And I think like California and Florida has really insane theater programs. And like, we used to go to these drama competitions and win things. Like, I've won all these random awards. People used to call me the Iron Asian because I just won these awards. And it was like a legit thing. And I fell in love with theater because we immediately started learning commedia dell'arte, which is an Italian style. Well, it's not Italian, but it originated from Italy. And it's the 16th century style of acting that's ensemble based, and it's improvised dialogue, stock characters, and lots of slapstick comedy. And remember, I was this very quiet girl. I just did this for love. Like, I just wanted to be close to this guy. I could be his stagehand for all I could. I think that I was shy because I was always afraid that, like, my voice, I didn't want to be too loud. I didn't want to bother people. And when I had to do the commedia dell'arte for class, it just kind of brought out this like loud, wild, goofy, like colorful side that I think I was sort of hiding. And that's what's embraced in commedia dell'arte. That's what you want to do over the top. And I think it was just kind of like, wow, who knew this was inside of me? And people are responding well. I think that it just kind of gave me permission to sort of see that side of me. And it was the first time I was like, wow, it's freeing. I feel like me. And I think that kind of is what did it.
So you said all that was in high school, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
All that happened with this in a span of freshman to sophomore year.
Oh, geez. Okay. Hey, did your family have like an arts background or anything? Or was this also just a whole like introduction to arts in general?
It was a whole introduction to arts. No, like, my mom is the funniest person I know, and my dad is the most serious, dramatic person I know, which like maybe helps in terms of like, I don't know, just the variety that I get to do that just somehow came down to me. But no, I think it caught them by surprise. I was, like I said, I was very studious. I was a good student. I was good at school too. I think sometimes people find things because they're looking for their place in life. And it's not always going to be, books, and it's not always going to be math. It's not always going to be art. Like, I know people who could not for the life of them do anything artistic. They're just very literal and very logical, but there's art in everything. And I don't know, I think they were just very surprised. I think, and fortunately they were very supportive. They were very, very supportive. I think I had a lot of relatives who were not supportive, just for very good reasons, but also for very not good reasons, very old-fashioned reasons. And my parents, I think I just kind of came into this when I decided I want to do this professionally, like for realsies. I think I was so headstrong about it. I was so like, well, I'm going to do it whether you're going to help me or not. So it's up to you. Like, it's up to you. I'm not asking for your permission. I was very adamant, and I think they just had to kind of roll with it.
So all that happened in high school, and then it sounds like that's when you decided, okay, after high school, I'm going to go off and be an actor. And then
Yes.
you went and studied it. And
Yeah.
when you did that, was that your introduction into TV, film, and everything as well? Or how did that come to be after the high school era?
I mean, I studied theater. I studied musical theater, and I mean, I think I knew. I wasn't naive to what the challenges of being an actor would be, let alone an Asian actor. There's so many more opportunities now, even though we're very far away. But there weren't that many opportunities back then. So what had happened was, once I finished school, all of my friends were going to every casting call, and not only was it hard, to find opportunities as an Asian actor, I learned pretty early on that I wasn't exactly what people were looking for in an Asian character. I didn't fit the Asian stories that existed. I still sometimes don't now. And that's just a reflection of what stories we want to tell, how Hollywood even sees an Asian woman, let alone an Asian man. Like, I could do a whole TED Talk on, the problems with how people view Asian women. And then I could do another TED Talk and whatever my problems are, the Asian male conversation, let alone an Asian binary character. It's just a lot. But at that time, it's like, the example would be everyone was going to every single audition because they were right for everything that was on a stage. And for me, the only thing, if I was lucky, would be King and I was auditioning, and I'm not even right for the King and I. So then I was like, I don't see my place in theater. And that was discouraging, but I didn't sit around being sad about it. I immediately took a job as an assistant to a talent manager in New York. I thought this would be a great opportunity to learn. I can't just sit here waiting for something to happen. And it just so happened that at that specific time of pilot season, when I got this job, there was this role for a very important pilot at the time, an American remake of this Australian comedy, Kath and Kim. And there was this one character that was just impossible to cast. They'd been trying for so long. And my manager knew I was an actor, didn't know if I was good or not, but just was like, you know what, you might be right for this. I'll just see. At this point, none of her clients got in. NBC had needed new faces. And I got pretty far in the process. And until they just cut the character, they're like, never mind, just maybe we don't want the character. But I think that's kind of when it started. I went in thinking maybe I should just be an assistant for now until something happens. And within weeks, I became her client. And, I don't love telling the story because everyone hears and goes, I must get an assistant job. But I also know plenty of actors who did that and nothing has happened. They get stuck. Yeah. They feel obligated to stay with representatives who aren't good for them, who almost feel like, and that's not the way it should be. It just was a really cool story for me. And it worked out for me that somehow, the right person found me in a different circumstance. It's all lightning in a bottle, right? It's like NBC might not have given me a chance if I met this manager 2 months earlier. She might not even have thrown me in for it because she has her own clients. It was just a timing thing, and it just worked out for me. And I found my place in TV and film. All of a sudden I was booking that work, and that's kind of how it happened.
So I have a few questions that I kind of want to dig in there. The first one that you mentioned is, because Jeff and I run into this, we've discovered through various conversations we've had with people, a handful of people have kind of played in different parts of the industry, kind of like what you mentioned about you getting an assistant job, and not everyone has to do that.
Yeah.
But I am curious, do you think that having that job helped you understand the industry a little bit better and maybe even affected your acting? which
What
helped.
100%, 100%. You learn so much. I mean, as an assistant, I remember now every actor, except me, because I think I became an assistant before an actress. Every actor is sort of guilty of doing this thing where they freaking nail something. They nail an audition or they nail a self-tape and they're like, I'm so perfect. I went in and that casting director was like, you were perfect. You walk out, you're feeling really good about yourself. And then you immediately email your representative, your agent, your manager, and you wait. And the reality, the one thing I've learned is that it really is not personal. If you are right for something, you are right. And if you felt they loved you, they probably did. And you will get the good news if it's your role. But like, I don't know. It's like the industry does not revolve around you and your one experience. There's so many other things at play. And I've seen it. I've seen people come in and being so insane to their managers. And I just kind of go, there's so many other things at play. The director is going to hire this other person because that's their friend. Like, they're not even good. There are just so many other things happening. Like, and I think that when I've seen it, like, we know it, but when you see it happening, you really learn to not take anything personally. You just go, you are making fans all the time. You just do your job and let it go and really let it go. And I think that because I was an assistant first and I've seen what the casting process is like, what directors are like, even how honestly like managers are sometimes they're not going to throw you in because they want their daughter in something, it's like, I've seen like the ugly side of those things, but I think it's like, I think it you learn so much. It teaches you to relax and just relax. It happens when it happens. Like, if they really want you, they will get you. They will get you. So like, all of that other stuff is fluff. It's just a waste of your time and energy. And I think it kind of put me in a good headspace.
Gee, I'm also really interested. You mentioned, you grew up in California and then all of a sudden you're in New York. So I feel like there's a lot of people out there who want to, like, why pick New York? And like, what effect did that have on you? Because I see that you came back to the West Coast. And I know you were creating stuff in New York. You had some great stuff that we found. What was it about New York that drew you? And what did you gain from that experience?
I mean, obviously, I went to New York because for two reasons. One, I had studied musical theater. That was my intention, to be on Broadway. And the second one is I felt like if I changed my environment, I would really give it a shot. Really give it a shot, because I wouldn't, it would have been so easy for me to try to make it work in LA, but find things to fall back on. And I wanted it to feel a little bit like, this is your chance. Like, this is the moment. It was very, 100%.
Burn the ships.
100%. And I love New York. It's just such a wonderful place. And what I can tell any person is that if you have the desire, I think that New York, the artistic community, is really truly embraces different types of people, whereas sometimes LA is very project focused. Like whereas one of the best things that has happened in my career is being in New York and meeting casting directors who love you and will throw you in for things because they're obsessed with you because you're so different, and they're not afraid to take a chance and make creative decisions. And that's really wonderful. But on the other hand, in LA, I feel like you can be walking on water, but if you're just like not blonde and they needed a blonde girl, they're not really paying attention to you. It's and they're just as much as I went to New York to make sure that I really committed to my career, deciding to move back to LA was for the exact same reason. I think I still didn't find a footing in theater the way I wanted to. I was letting go of so many film and TV opportunities because I was in New York and they were shooting in LA, and so much easier to give an LA actor a job. And so once again, I was like, I really need to commit to my career. My career is going the direction of film and TV. It's not, and I'm letting too much go by. And I created this whole life in New York, and I needed to start again. Like it felt like I was like, all right, you got to start afresh, new friends, new life, and all that. And I think that's kind of what that was, that whole journey of going back and forth.
Seems like you have a strong commitment. Just when you commit, you kind of stick to it and tackle it. And is that something you've always had, or is that something you had to develop? Because I know I've met a lot of people where that doesn't come naturally to them. And also in LA, I've ran into quite a few people who say they will commit, but then don't actually end up delivering.
This is the next thing I'm about to say is going to be the cheesiest thing I say, but
cheese it up.
I've always worked really hard. I think this is not the cheesy part. This is the deep part.
Okay.
But I've always been a hard worker. I don't think I was naturally smart or naturally talented or naturally anything. And I think you can do anything. You have to be willing to put in the work. You could get like ripped and fit. You just have to put in the work, but really put in the work. And so that's always kind of been in my personality, this can-do attitude. Like some things come so naturally to people, but some things like can still be learned. And the more you learn, the more it becomes natural to you. And one thing I read a couple years ago, I think I was feeling a little bit in my career. I read this, I think it's like Men's Health or Men's Journal or Men's something, some sort of testosterone publication that Hugh Jackman was doing an interview. And it's so silly that this is the reference, but he was talking about how when he was in his 20s in Australia, he was this very lanky guy, someone you could just push and beat up. And he said, no one would know that. You see him and he's Wolverine, he's Logan, and he's ripped. And he's just like, I was not naturally fit. I was just such a dweeb. And the reality is that I got to put in the work because everyone has a dream, but not everyone is willing to put the work to attain that dream. And I think about that a lot because I think about that with sometimes hearing friends or even myself. Like there's a bit of a ego check you have to do. I hear people and everyone has a dream, a big dream. And they're always just like, this is what I want. This is what I imagine my career. This is the role I could play. This is this. Everyone has one, whether you're in the arts or not. But no, not everyone is willing to put the work. And I mean, not just the work, the little bit of work, if you can't, it's like, people will give me a reason why they didn't memorize their lines. People will give me a reason why, they have this endless list of why their hopes and dreams are not coming for them, rather than, and I could come up with a longer list of other things they could have done. I'm not saying everyone has to go get jacked like Hugh Jackman, but someone will always find something. They're saying oh, I can't get in because I'm not skinny enough. I was like, well, I'm not telling you to lose weight, but do you want to be skinny? Is that really it? Do you genuinely believe that if you are a certain body type, that will bring all your hopes and dreams? If you genuinely believe that and you have a healthy mindset, you should go for that. If you think that is genuinely the thing blocking your way. On the other hand, I'm just the work. It's just the work quality of it, not the changing yourself for your dreams, just the actual work part of it. I think people make more excuses than putting in the work.
I love how we haven't even gotten to your story of when you came back to LA, but we've already gotten into these deep conversations.
Never change, friends.
It sounds like you have a lot of these moments where, you do make that decision of this is genuinely going to make me happy and it's going to help my career, so I'm going to do it. Is that A, correct to say, and B, is that what led you to LA again?
I think change is always, even good change is always going to be a little awkward. I think it was the smartest thing to do for my career, and it was the smartest thing. I so many wonderful things happened. By being in LA, I had a stronger relationship with my LA agent, Josiah, who has been a real game changer in my career. And yeah, I think it has been, and I've been able to find a home here. I think the other thing that I really loved about LA versus New York is I felt when I was in New York, I was always in survival mode. And because I was in survival mode, I didn't think I was the best at what I could be artistically. I just was so tired. I didn't have that space, that bandwidth to really do what I wanted to do. And I came out to LA, and it was a little humbling to be like, all right, just stop grinding, just relax. Like, if you need to go home, you could be with your family, and that's going to like hurt your ego because you're like in your 20s and you don't want to live with your parents. But it's like, you hold on to your savings and do that. Stay at home for a bit, and all of your energy goes towards your work. And I did that, and I immediately started working more because I was put all of my focus solely on that. And then I was able to find my footing. I think that's what the reality of being an actor is finding a way to survive, but also feeling free to do it, and I think that's what it was. I think I was like, you had to set aside other things, other expectations you had of yourself. And it was a great move, and I'm very grateful for it.
Burnout's actually come up in a lot of our conversations, so it's really interesting to hear you bring that up. And I'm curious, like now, especially since you made it you came to that recognition of, I need to get time for myself so I can not be in survival mode and focus on my work. Since you had that happen at an early point in your career, do you now have, I guess, in your work nowadays, can you recognize when you're hitting that burnout point, or do you sometimes surpass it and then it's like you realize it after the fact of like, yeah, I probably should have slowed down? Or do you just have a hard line where it's like, this is starting to affect me, I need to take a step back?
I know what my burnout is. I think I have a good, what is temperature check of that. Like, I think I know pretty early on when, and I think I've learned to just do less, be a little like, just be more intentional with what I'm doing with my time. When I was younger, I would, I did my web series in New York, and I was so ambitious, and I still am, but what you do with that ambition is just now a little bit more calculated and specific. So, I think it's important for actors, but everyone in the creative field, to find different things, to look at different things. Specifically with actors, make your own work, especially if you're not happy with the work that you're booking, like make your own work. Now I'm trying to be very intentional. I think we're kind of in like there's just a lot of content, too much content. And I think that I want to know that whatever I do is going to be a very important, smart representation of exactly what I want to do, not just because I'm frustrated that I'm not playing a role, not because I don't want to make anything that I don't truly believe that on the reverse side I'd be excited to watch. I think that I get a little bit more specific. Like, I've learned that yes, there's a part of me that's like, of course I love to write, but I'm like, now that I've met writers and see what actually goes into writing, and I'm like, do you really think you have that? I think everyone thinks they could be the next Lena Dunham, the next Mindy Kaling, the next fill in the blank. Just, I want to be able to have total creative control of the story I want to tell. But I'm like, do you actually have that in you? Like, do you? And I'm not saying you don't, but I'm also saying like collaboration's also really amazing. So meet writers, have them write stories, and they will tell you if your story sucks or not. And that's also good, like that kind of stuff. So I think I'm just more intentional. And I think taking a second, I think I'm very, in general, impulsive. I'm like, yes, absolutely. And usually my gut instincts are right, but I'm always like, everything you do, just sleep on it. Just sleep on it. And I think your intuition will guide you. I think your intuition is stronger than you think, but you need to actually trust it and listen to it. And that's kind of when you will be better at avoiding burnout.
Then with you coming to LA and having a great approach, and also it sounds like a great mentality about it pretty early on, how did, because you said you did TV and film and theater in New York, and then in LA you started getting into video games and VO.
Oh,
and
yeah.
How did that come to be?
It just happened. Other people have greater stories. Really, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened.
Okay.
One summer, I get an email from the voiceover department of my agency, and they ask me, hey, this is a video game in-person audition. There will be motion capture involved. Are you interested in auditioning? And I said, sure. Like, I was like, what's the harm? Like, what's the harm? I went to it, and it just so happened to be Anthem by BioWare. I think it had a different name. I'm sure it was like Antarctica or that's not even a place. Antarctica. It was like Antelope or something. It was just like, I didn't know what it was. And I also like didn't know the world. I don't really play video games. I was just like, sure, why not? And there were a lot of lots of instructions to memorize my lines. And I was like, okay, all right. And I did it and I booked it. And that's how it started. Like, I just got it. And then my voiceover agents, I mean, that makes agents very happy to take a chance on someone they don't know and immediately get results. And that's how it happened. And then I started working on that. And a couple months later, I just happened to book this DreamWorks show, Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts. So it was just like a cool, it really did just kind of happen. I think I hate that answer, but I think what you could gain from like my journey and everyone else's journey, one like piece of thing that I really stick to is like, you're going to have people who really believe in you, and that's going to be the difference. It's not that you need to change or you need to fit a mold or you need to do this. The reality is this is an industry, and a lot of things suck about the industry of that has everything to do with who you know. But really, like, you're going to get some really cool cheerleaders, and that is really rewarding. You don't want to ever feel like you got something because it was an accident, because you just happen to be the person. The thing that's going to create this longevity are your cheerleaders, like these people who have always believed in you. And I think that's what it was. It was just, my agents at Innovative, they had good reason to throw me in. I had a long career with them, and they go, hey, is she interested in doing voiceovers? Well, let's start with motion capture, because they actually need someone who can do more than just voice. And so just all worked out. And that's how I became this renowned voiceover artist.
Yeah, I mean, that's always, in my opinion, it's always good to hear that, like, it's nothing magical, because I do think, especially, people early in their career, they do get wrapped up in like a fantasy of like, I'm going to go to all the bars that the directors go to and run into somebody. And as I've been fortunate enough to work on bigger projects and meet people who have been working in the industry for a long time, like, to a degree, much like you said, a big part of it is having those cheerleaders who help you. But ultimately what gets people recognized by those cheerleaders is what you mentioned earlier, which is just doing the work.
100%. Listen, none of this is a meritocracy. None of it is. But it does not mean you should be bad and be unprofessional. It's like, none of it is a meritocracy, but this is still work. And, reputations matter. Like, it 100% matters. It would kill me to ever to ever recommend a friend that I find talented and wonderful and hear that they were jerks like that, you know, and that happens a lot, or they showed up late or they just couldn't do the job. It's like especially with actors, I find we're not asked to do a lot, but we somehow get away with a lot of bad behavior. Like but yes, it's not a meritocracy, but really cool things happen at the right time. And you have to show up, and your fans are only going to help you get closer to those right moments.
So Jee, quite often, a lot of people who have not worked in video games think that like film and TV acting, you know, the Venn diagram, film and TV acting is over here, voiceover and motion capture, PCAP is over here. But I think as we're learning that there's a lot more crossover than people know or believe. First, I want to know, like, what are the biggest things that you had to adjust to coming from film and TV into working in performance capture? And to add to that, are there any myths that need to be debunked, that actors are believing out there that is really harming them when they're going into auditions or doing their self-tapes? If they have a video game audition, their headspace is over here, where these limiting beliefs are actually holding them back. Is there anything that jumps out for you?
I mean, it's difficult. It depends on, what role you're playing. But I think if I were to describe what it's like doing PCAP, I would say, like, I have to kind of blend stage acting with film TV acting, because on one hand, you need to really use your space. And I don't mean jump around everywhere, but you are performing in a huge room, and to act like you're not is insane to me. Like, and most PCAP, whether it's going to be video games or some really cool like Peter Jackson shit, they're doing it because they're going to create this incredible world. Because if it's not going to be this incredible world, why are we even doing this? Just do it at a basement. Like, like it's like you need to use your space. And like I said, don't hop around everywhere, but you can immediately tell sometimes with film and TV actors, they're just not used to using their space. And I'm not saying like you have to be able to say your line and run a mile, but I am saying like you could immediately tell in just the ease of their body, whether they know where they are. And that's really just it's so evident whether this person knows where they are. On the other hand, because this is going to be on a screen medium, you've got to trust your intentional focus. I don't think you should be doing wild slapstick theater-ish acting, because you are not acting for a theater. You are not acting for hundreds of people who cannot see you. This is still going to be, you're going to get close-ups. They've got a freaking selfie camera up your nostrils. Like it's like and so I will say what I've learned to adapt is to find a playfulness of what I've learned in theater, just to feel like I'm in the world. But the biggest adjustment for any film and TV actor is to find real specificity in your acting. Because I think in terms of, this happens a lot with voice acting, where like people think they're doing something, but they're not. And unless I looked at your face, I don't know if you're angry or not. Like, not everyone has the chops to do animation, because they're so used to acting with their full everything and thinking that just means that's their voice. Like, I'm just kind of like, don't look at yourself for a second. And like, you need to take that out, literally take your face out of the equation. And so when it comes to PCAP, I think it has to be specific. I think really, really specific. Every choice you make, it's only going to make everything stronger. Anything that is a half choice comes off as an eighth of a choice in the PCAP world. I think I make crazy faces sometimes, and then I see it and go, oh, it's not that crazy. And I realize it's like you have to be specific. Like, if you want to look angry, get even angrier. But also you cannot do like a hullabaloo of anger because it doesn't look like anything except maybe you're having a seizure. I just think like everything's got to be sharp and clean, and then it's so impactful. That's what it is. I think people in film and TV feel a little just comfortable to just chill, and it doesn't land because you don't have the environment, and you don't know what the environment's going to be, and you have to make those specific distinct choices so that it comes out in the character.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Jee. Especially from being so much on the technical side of it, you're absolutely right. Well, first I will say, even people who have a PCAP, who are like an established PCAP actors, I have seen some people who don't fully grasp, or it doesn't come naturally to them, about what you said about using the space.
Yeah.
Usually, sometimes until we do a rehearsal, sometimes after like 3 rehearsals, then you can start seeing them use the space. But I think that's an excellent note, because like, no pressure on you guys, but that system is literally tracking every millimeter of a movement that you do.
Yeah.
So like all of it comes across.
Yeah. But that's also so important. I mean, I've noticed this. Take away the PCAP aspect of it and just talk about like working with actors, right? Mm-hmm. I've learned early on, like in the stage world, theater, I was like, wow, a lot of actors don't know how to walk. They just don't know how to walk. It's like in life they do, but the second they're doing a scene and they're walking, it's like they look so uncomfortable because they're performing and they're so aware people are looking at them. And I'm like, you need to get out of your shell. And that happens again with TV and film actors because like they have less space to fill. So out of nowhere, you'll be like, why does that person run weird? Because finally you see them in like a wide and you're like, oh, they're not comfortable. Like you forget like that it gets cushy to give people everything they need because it's movie magic. And then even actors, I think we do unnecessary things in life when we're not sure about what we're doing. Like I've noticed actors blink when they're talking and I'm like, and it's like a weird thing where I'm like, they don't know their lines. Like, that's it. They don't know their lines. That's why it's like, because they're blinking more than an average person should. And they keep blinking while they're talking. If you have something in your eye, blink when someone else is talking. Don't move. Like, don't move. Stop moving. And I think that's the PCAP of it. Like, all that unnecessary stuff is being uncomfortable. And so it's like you cannot do that because it does not look good on the character in a couple years. It's just going to look weird. It doesn't look weird. It doesn't do what you think it's doing.
Well, you're absolutely right. I had a director that I had worked with mention some of the data that they got, and he actually called out, he's like, there's one actor that we had who I think might not have had his lines entirely memorized because he noticed his eyes, like when they were putting the data onto the models, because you have an HMC recording everything.
Yeah.
He noticed his eyes like kind of like he was trying to remember it.
Shifty.
And even though you couldn't see it in the body data or anything like that, just because they recorded the face, it was something that he noticed. So that's
This isn't like a weird, like, oh, Jee knows all the acting tricks in the world. It's just like a weird poker face thing I learned. I just went, when I like help friends with a tape, I'm like, this, you need to stop blinking. You just have to stop blinking. Like I could see you look uncomfortable and I'm losing you. And I'm just like, where is this coming from? Like they don't know their lines. They're thinking about their lines and they're uncomfortable about it. And they're the in terms of like what is all their energy going towards? It's their lines, not like actually knowing it. And usually once you tell someone like this is the thing, this is your tick of your uncomfortability tick, it goes away because they're like, oh no, my eyes will never blink. But truly, I think all of the fluff is always, they're not comfortable with the material. They don't know what they're doing. It's coming from being uncertain.
One thing that I'm curious about, because you just mentioned that you see a lot of this by helping people with like their self-tapes and auditions.
Yes.
And that makes me wonder, whenever you get auditions and have to do self-tapes and everything, what are kind of your tips and tricks? Because it seems like you're pretty analytical about how you proceed with things. So
absolutely.
like what are your tricks to for your self-tapes? And what do you try to avoid? What are the things you noticed you do where you're like, can't do that anymore?
I think the number one thing I do across the board is I learn the material as best I can. I don't think I've ever done an audition in my life that I did not memorize, to like really memorize. I think actors think they know something, but I'm like, I think you need to know it so well you're not even thinking about it. And the reason I do this, it's not like a cool, like braggy thing. I think if you know the material, it's just going to be in your body. You're just going to know what to do. You get to follow your instincts, and that is wonderful. You are not thinking about your lines. And I think actors tend to act before they know the actual material. It's kind of like, obviously I've had to do cold reads, and I've noticed even with actors, they're jumping to act versus actually knowing what they're reading. So when people have trouble cold reading, the thing I always tell them is just read it. Just read it. Stop acting. Just read it. Imagine you are reading a storybook to a kid. You are not going to flub a line because you're just reading it with intention. You're just reading it excitedly to a kid. So you're not going to be like, oh, I don't know. Give me a line. I just like, but I'm like, you're not going to be like the hungry cat, or let me try that again. The hungry cat, or like, you're not going to do that. You're just reading it. Just read. No one reads a book aloud and second guesses what they just read. You just read it because your whole focus is learning what you're reading, is reading it and attaining knowledge. And I think that people jump to an effect versus actually knowing what they're doing. I'm like, you cannot make a choice unless you know what the truth of the matter is. Like, that sounds so like meta, but I genuinely believe that. I'm like, you're doing an effect. You're not delivering truth. And I think for most actors, trust your instincts. They're just there. You're going to be able to do it or not. That's the reality. You can do it or not. And you're just not going to know what you need to do unless you know the material. So that's my big thing. I learn it to like almost like a beautiful mind-esque way. Like I don't want to think about my lines. I don't want to think about them. It's the worst feeling in the world to not know your line.
Yeah.
And it's a trap. It's just like, it's something that is totally in your control. Like, to know the material as much as possible. That's it. Like, everything else is out of your control. Whether it's going to come out of you, whether you're going to act it or not, you don't know until you do it. But that, like, whether they love you or not, you're not going to know. But like coming in fully prepared, knowing the material, that is crucial to everything. I think your acting ability is your superpower. That sounds so stupid. So like, stop worrying about trying to get the acting out. Like, you are going to do it or not, but you have every control of knowing the material. And that, I think, is only going to make you a better actor, to know what you're doing.
I love what you're saying about preparation, and just like driving it home for anyone who's beginning as an actor that's listening to this. Like, listen to Jee. Like, these are wise words that I feel like you said, it's the only thing that's in your control, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And on that idea of control, how are you feeling about the world of self-tapes now? I mean, all of our auditions have pretty much gone away from being in the room, and now we have the control of like the amount of time that you want to put into your audition, the lighting, the environment that you want. Do you find that it's been something that you really enjoy? Are you on the self-tape train, or what's your feeling about that these days?
I think if you asked me in like 2021, I would have been like, I hate self-tapes because I just hated them. I hated doing them. But like, now I'm used to it. We've done it for a long time. I don't think that means like we should just let this be the norm. But at some point with industry stuff, you have to just accept it. Like, you are wasting so much time complaining. And I know many people who feel like they haven't worked enough. They have not gotten jobs because of the self-tape world. And on one hand, I absolutely agree that it is not the same to watch a self-tape versus meeting someone in person. Most actors are literally one note away from nailing it. And also, in person is like meeting someone is going to change your mind. You will like them. You're experiencing someone's art is not the same as watching it. Like watching someone perform is magical. Watching them just do it. And even like I don't really believe in like audition tricks, but there are techniques that really work for you. Like one of my fun tricks to do is when I go to any dramatic audition, I would come in and just be like very bubbly. And immediately when we start, bring in the drama. And something even like that shakes a room because that shows how much talent you have, but also like how ready you are as a performer versus like you don't get as impressed because you watch 9 million tapes of people who are probably just like in a dark space, like getting there. Like, you know, it's not the same. It's like seeing a hot person in real life is way cooler than seeing a picture of them on Instagram. Like, I don't care. Like, pass. But in person, I'm like, oh no, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. The magic is gone. We're trying to make stories about people and we should meet people. And I've changed many minds in the room. However, self-tapes are here to stay. I think there's wonderful things about it too. I think that you can read for things you don't usually get to read for. I think that it's really wonderful that you get to do the version of whatever it is the way you want to do it. And we go from there. It starts like, I think finding the joy is the trick for people. And there is some joy, but I do think like, if you were like, do you want to go back to in-person versus self-tape? I will say, I think we should go back to in-person. I think auditioning in person brings something out of you and it's wonderful. But when it comes to self-tapes, I think finding what works for you is the key. I love that I'm in a safe space because I also think about auditions you've gone to where you were so prepared and you were so right for it, but just it was a bad juju, a bad vibe. You had to listen to someone to kill it before you, and it psyched you out, and then you sucked. Like, you know, like also like it's a very vulnerable thing to audition, and sometimes on one hand, I used to do like an audition and then go get like frozen yogurt, like as my treat. I was like, and you didn't get it, so go get yourself a yogurt. Good job, girl. But now it feels comforting to be at home. You don't have to deal with a lot of the ugly feelings of being an actor when you do a self-tape. I think there's something about it that kind of, it almost makes it feel like it helps you not take things personally sometimes.
So with all this talk about you and your process and rehearsing and getting ready for a self-tape and on audition and stuff like that, when you actually create your characters or like start grounding yourself in characters, do you have again, because you're very analytical with your processes, do you have a method that you continuously do or that helps you ground yourself in your characters? And then also, because we kind of mentioned earlier that there are some nuances between like film and PCAP and VO, does that all, like, say if you're getting a video game audition or a VO audition that you know is strictly going to be VO, does that also change how you approach creating your characters?
I think that unless you're like Christian Bale, most likely in our acting journey, when we are auditioning for characters, there's something about just like someone's perception of just like our headshot that immediately is going to be like, they want a version of you, like your version of the character. I think finding layers within yourself and trying to personalize characters is the best thing you can do. I think that if I would like, there's an element of me that I would say I'm more of a character caricature. I'm more of a character actor. I am also, yes, a caricature, but I think I would say like there was a time that I would call myself a character actor, but in terms of film and TV specifically, there's not a lot of space for character actors. It's more of they want you. They want to see you within the story. That's not to say you know the roles aren't out there. I just think like you don't get to play as much like until you're at a certain level of actordom, or if you're theater, that's where you get more opportunity to find that within yourself. I was trying to think of this because on one hand, I'm like, no, I'm not a method actor. Are you asking me if I'm method? No. But I will. Do you know what I do? So in end of 2021 to 2022, I was on Perry Mason, and that was the first world where it was very different from just like I could sort of, it's a version of myself. It was just like, oh, this is, the 1930s. So one thing I do when I feel like I need to prep for something, I don't think I prep that much for auditions as much, because I do think that I mean, character prep for auditions is that I do think they're looking for just like you within the character. But when I want to feel completely embedded in a character, for Perry Mason specifically, and for theater roles, what I did was for like 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks, if I want to go longer, I try to eat like the character that I'm playing, because I think food does stuff to you. like if I am playing a character that's really fit or just like an adventure, food really fuels you, obviously, but it really affects your mood and how you carry yourself. And so like one of the funniest things is that this one time I auditioned for this film and it was so sad. Like this girl was in high school and she ended up like bombing the school because she's so depressed. And I just didn't know how to get there. I was like, that's so dark. So I just like didn't eat breakfast. Like I just like spent all day, and I was really sad. I was like, I was just thinking about like low energy and just like feeling like, oh, not myself. And I just like didn't eat breakfast, and it like somehow worked. And I just drooled. Sorry. But that's kind of what I do with character work. Is I think food is it's such a personal experience, and I feel like I cannot force myself to understand what happened during the Great Depression, but the one thing that I can mimic is what that person ate, and that is the closest experience that is also very visceral, and it's the real true experience that I could give myself to mimic this person. So that's something I do. Like I'll eat, like if I don't know how to tap in, it just kind of gets me in the space. And it was really sucky for Perry Mason because it was the Great Depression. So the food sucked. I was eating like peanut butter sandwiches. I literally just peanut butter sandwiches and like boiled eggs. That's it. And it was not fun. Like that's what I mean by like, it put me in a survival mode, and it was more simple. Like I wasn't doing Bon Appetit recipes, it was just, it just kind of helps me feel close to that character. And in terms of PCAT video game stuff, I don't know, preparation is mostly like vocal preparation, right? Like it's always end times, right? Every video game, it's like huge stakes. So the biggest thing I could do is finding flexibility in my voice, because you're going to have to die in 9,000 different ways because your character actually never dies. We all think there's only one way of dying, but play a video game and they're and so I think just flexibility. I think it's just flexibility. I think people respond to colors in your voice.
Yeah, so first I want to comment on that food note. That's really fascinating to hear, because I recently in my personal life decided to go plant-based, and that totally changed like my body chemistry and everything.
Yeah.
And after that, because I felt that difference, I actually thought, I'm like, I wonder if that's something I can take into my character work. Like if if I get a character and if I think that like if I think about their diet, and then if I eat the same diet, I always was curious, like, would that be kind of like a character building tool that I could use? So I love hearing that that's a process.
100%. Just try it. What's the worst that can happen? You eat peanut butter sandwiches for 2 weeks. Like, you save some money. That's cheap. Like, it's like, but true. I think it's just, it works for me. It doesn't work for other people. Really want to get in there. I think finding tricks to trick yourself is the way to go, because I think if you put a lot of pressure into connecting with the character and you do all this work and it doesn't get there, we get a little hard on ourselves and we start trying to be something else versus trusting our instincts. And our instincts are good. Finding a trick helps you tap into that part of your instinct that's going to bring out something different. And like I said, sometimes I think some character preparation is necessary depending on what it is. But I do think I find like tricking yourself and just seeing how it feels. And sometimes it works and some people find it baloney. No, but I think for me, it's the food thing. And I think everyone find what works for you, as long as it's healthy and as long as it is true to yourself.
That's so great, Jee. I love that you use food as well, because I use music. I always get the playlist to find out what they would listen to. Yeah. And so I'm totally going to steal the food.
That's yours? I've heard. Okay, so I did a pilot a couple years ago called The Mission for ABC, and this actor Chris Lofton, who's very, very talented, he's such a great guy and he's so committed to his work. That's what he does.
Did Chris steal that from me? No,
I don't know. But he creates a playlist for the character he plays, and I thought, cool. Like, I don't know if I have that in me to come up with a playlist. Like, that sounds like a lot of work, but I was like, well, what's the harm? Like, it works for him. You go to work and you play the playlist of your character. It puts you in a headspace. And that's true for everything. Like, I listen to like Joe Hisaishi music just to calm down. Like, of course, get in the headspace of your character. It's so low. You don't actually have to do much. It's literally, you're tricking yourself, right? It's like you are putting the environment into your freaking brain. And it's totally, it's a great method.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to think of like what else. I mean, but the headspace is great. I always tell people if they've got to do like a crying scene, I was like, you need to drink water all day. And they're like, really? And I was like, yeah, because sometimes the tears don't come out because you're just fucking dehydrated. Like, that is a true thing. That is a true thing. It's not because you're not sad and you got to work harder. But I promise, I've had to do like an episode of The Good Doctor. And I was like, well, the tears will come or they don't. But someone told me like, just drink a lot of water. And every time I needed, I mean, it was a sad episode, but like anytime I needed the tears to come, they did. And it's little things, like we're looking for like this key, and then you start realizing like, I'm still a vessel. I am a body. Yeah. I need to nurture myself. I need to listen to stuff. Like, our senses outside of like what we think we're supposed to do are very important. Like, and trusting like what we look at, what we listen to, what we eat and touch, all that stuff is so important. And I think people forget to use their bodies to get there.
Yeah. So the next thing that I'm curious about is, because you've mentioned a lot about your work ethic, and I've seen it on set a lot too. And you've also mentioned about needing to be flexible as well when you actually do get on set. But so on set, I've seen you make like bold choices that weren't in the script before.
Right.
And then I have seen times where you stick to the script. And I remember one time in particular, the director we had after the take, and it's funny because one of the technicians remembers this and says this is his favorite memory of you. But he said that the director was like, so, gee, that was an interesting choice. Why did you make it that way? And your response was, because the script told me to.
Because it told me to do it.
Yeah. And my big question
I didn't write it.
Exactly. And my big question is, how do you determine? Does it just come naturally, or do you actually like determine like, okay, here's some space where I can play a little bit more, and then here's where I should stay locked in to the page?
One, I think that I've kind of gotten used to working with different types of people. There are some writers who are like, please say everything as written, and sometimes to like a degree that does not make sense. And then there are people who just want you to make it your own, you know, like don't feel like that. So on a writing level, like I've gotten very used to being like, do what they intended. And I also think, so in terms of like choices, my biggest kind of philosophy is you are only allowed to break the rules if you know the rules. Like that's it. Because I think people tend to just break them because it's easier for them or they feel like their way is better. But if you talk about people paraphrasing or saying lines differently, I'm like, you have had this material for far less time than the writer has. And you know what you are going to do as an actor. You have, your vision is very short-sighted in terms of the bigger picture of what the director is looking for, what's going to actually come out there. It's like, and so truly, I think that's what it is. It's like, you cannot, you should feel free, but you still need to do your job as intended. And I think it's just, that's it. I used to be, I used to wait tables, and not only did I wait tables, I was the server trainer and bartender trainer. So I was like the girl that you had to like learn from, and I knew everything to the point that I have this supernatural, it's insane ability to know now that I go to restaurants by myself, not when I'm waiting tables, but I have this insane ability to know if someone's going to mess up my order. Like I know all the signs that someone is going to bring me the wrong beer. Someone's going to mess that up. I know all the signs, like little things like, oh, they did not repeat that correctly, and we made a mistake, like they didn't hear me correctly. They need to repeat the order or write it down. They're going to mess it up. They're going to mess it up. I just know it. I've done it too much. And what I've learned about like restaurants and all of these like steps of service and stuff that all these corporations instill and make you learn is that they do it to a science for a reason. They do it because every step of service they want you to do will make you better at multitasking, better at flipping the table, get you, like all of that is there, not just because they're being jerks. And I know this because I had to implement it. So like, I was like, dude, so if you do this, if you bring them all of the sugars when they ask for a coffee, don't even ask them if they want milk and sugar for their coffee. Just bring it, because they're going to be like, you already anticipated their needs. So I was like, that became a step of service. It's a rule. And you think it's an annoying rule, but when you know the rule, it's just, you're going to realize it's going to make you a better person. And that's what I mean by like, you are absolutely allowed to break rules. They should be broken, but you cannot break them unless you know what they are. Then you're just a jerk. Then you are just a jerk. And that's kind of, I think I live my philosophy a little bit like that. You are allowed to play with dialogue, but it's such a disservice to the character, the writing, everything, if you don't even know what the point of the dialogue was, so that you decide to make it your own. And that's the same as all these choices. Like those things are written for very important reasons. Sometimes they're not. And I think like finding the balance is really key.
On set, a lot of the time, at least every time you've been on set with me, it's always a blast and you have a lot of fun. Yeah. And you stick, you know, as we've mentioned and as we've heard, you're a really hard worker. You knock everything out, you nail everything. But I'm curious because when I run sets, I actually, because they can be super high intensity, a lot of stakes, all that. I actually make it a point to be like, I need to find some way to make it fun for people. So that way everybody's not just like so zoned in on what could go wrong. Yeah. And I'm curious, when you go on the set, whether it's with your coworkers or the crew, do you like make it a point to have fun, or does it just kind of happen?
First of all, PCAP is so much fun. I don't think I'm going in going, oh, dear goodness, how are we gonna find the rainbow today? Like, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. If you don't like doing it, it's you suck. Like, I don't know. It's just so much fun. It's playing. It's playing, and you don't have like annoying movie magic annoying you. Like, it's funny when your headset falls off. It's like all of the blunders make it fun. And even like the things you have to adapt to, like, oh no, I got to wear Spanx in front of everyone. Like, like you're basically like sort of naked in a spacesuit, but then also dots on your face. There's a camera at the most unflattering angle. But then you get it's like 2 seconds of being uncomfortable and you adapt really quickly. But it's like, it's playful. You get to use your imagination. You're working with people. And I think I try to bring that in everything that I do, because I think we get to do something very fun, and it's going to be hard for everyone. And I don't know. I think doing PCAP, it comes very naturally to just have fun. But I understand that in terms of the industry, there are a lot of people who don't want to have fun. And I don't think they're thinking about it that way. I think they are thinking about themselves. And I think in general in life, when people are just being little bleh, like they can't just like relax, I think that's just a them issue. And I think in terms of PCAP, it's very collaborative. It is being a team member. And I think that's the key, is you got to set your ego aside. And I think that's just a thing for anything that's collaborative. When you learn to set your ego aside, you will have a blast. But I think most people kind of get grumpy or don't know how to have fun when they're kind of in their own world. So that's their own thing. But PCAP is so much fun. I think people learn pretty quickly that you got to let your ego aside.
Yeah.
Like, I think you learn that, or you don't come back. Or I'm like, great meeting you. I just don't know. I think that's what it is. It's just, it's so much fun.
With that being said, then I'm curious, because you've done the project that we worked on. Is that your first or second PCAP, or have you done more?
That's my second PCAP.
From the beginning to now, I guess, what do you feel like you would have done anything differently, or do you feel like you have grown in any sense from it?
So when we worked together, it was during the cute pandemic, and that was a different time. And I don't know. I do think that just the parameters of the fact that it was the pandemic, there was a lot of like, I think they had to choose people to come in who were down to have fun, who were down to be a team player, because we had the weird situation where we could only have a couple actors at a time. And that's a lot of work to throw on actors to be like, we have a full day of PCAP and you got to learn all this material, and only 10% of it is actually your material. You're going to learn all these other characters. But like I said, it was a blast. And it was also like in the bigger picture of PCAP, that opportunity doesn't come. And I noticed that. Like, I think in general, anything that's doing PCAP, if they can get every freaking person that's in the scene, they will be there. And but we had to play multiple roles, and that was a lot of work. And I was very exhausted learning all these lines, but also like I got to play a bunch of roles that no one would ever hire me to do. Like, you basically get to like act the crap out of it. And that was so much fun. I think that's the thing. There's something that people kind of need to click in their brain, which is not like everything's okay, everything's happy. But I'm like, just take a second and stop complaining that you got to learn all these lines and that they're not going to use. They're going to see a side of you that you have never even been able to show anyone. And it's just, it impresses people, and it's fun. Like, it is fun. I think all of that, it was just, it was a blast, and it sucked. We had a smaller crew, we had a smaller cast, and it was that was a lot, but it's like it feels a little bit like camp. It's like, dude, let's get this, let's just do this. And I think that's how I feel about most things. Some things really do suck, but I'm like, dude, we're jumping around in the volume, and now I'm another character. Like, that's a lot of fun. And I think I don't think I would do anything differently per se. I think that I just wish it went on longer. Yeah, like it was a blast.
I guess to add to that, I wanted to see, like, so you've come so far in terms of, like, I saw that amazing Rhymes with Banana that you did, the pilot, like Magic, the guest stars. You're now, doing the for your consideration Emmy stuff with Imprisoned, Anthem, the PCAP work. So, like, not even just to go back to, like, the beginning of when you were on Anthem, like, what would Jee today tell, like, Jee just coming out of school, like, not to worry about, or like some advice? Like, what would you tell yourself if you had that opportunity, like that things that you wish you would have known back then, that you've come so far in your career, like you maybe didn't know that you would be going down this path, but like, what would you tell yourself if you had that opportunity to go back?
I would tell myself to not be discouraged by every disappointment, because really cool things will happen your way. What you think being an actor is not what it is. Like, I think we think we're just going to, like, get that one person to believe in us and immediately have stardom. And that didn't happen for me. And that, just as much as every actor wishes they just book the thing that changes the game, the fact that it didn't happen in the time that I wanted it to happen has been a gift. Yes, of course, I wish this happened. I wish this happened. Like, I auditioned for Star Wars. I wish that happened. Like, we want all of that to happen. But I think about my life right now, and I go, if we want to just talk about the actor version of that, I'm like, if you got that job that you wanted, and everything came true, think of, like, what else you got to do because it didn't. Like, because I didn't get the job, because I flew under the radar for most of my career, I've had to create and build a career of so many different characters, and no one gets to tell me that I'm one note, or they just don't get that one thing that I do, because no one knows me. So all of those moments of having to prove myself only gave me an opportunity to show off my range. And that is that's more of like that's something that's really hard to do. It's harder to have someone know you and you to prove them wrong and switch this idea they have of you, versus them not know you and you get to show something, a side of you that they didn't, they just don't know because they don't know you. So that's what I mean. Like, I've gone to do dramatic roles because they don't know me, and I did the drama. I did comedies because they're like, oh, I don't know who she is. Like, and that's actually amazing. And on a personal level, it's really taught me to find balance. It's taught me to slow down and also trust myself, because I think if I got success that young Jee wanted at the time young Jee wanted, I think I would have been wanting to make other people happy, not myself. I wouldn't have met the friends. I wouldn't have I would have taken for granted the people who really believed in me. I would have just thought it was a me thing. And now I'm grateful, and also, like, I, even little things, like if that one pilot went, I would never have met my now fiance. Like, I think about things like that. Like, everything happens for a reason. But it's true. Like, I think it's like, I think that's what I would say. It's like, it's not going to happen the way you think it's going to happen, but it's really rewarding, and it's going to be so hard in a way that you don't understand, but it's going to be so rewarding. And I think that's what I would say. And also I would say my New York agent, Jamie, has a really wonderful thing she says, which is when she signs clients, when she meets them, it's just like a first date. It's like, you either want to see them again or not. Like, it's not like, oh, but like what school did he go to? Like, you know, like, you're not doing this. You, like, I know, like, for younger actors, some people have you audition. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're gonna want to see them again or not. And that's how she chooses her actors. She's just like, it's gut instinct. Like, I'm going to take a chance on them, see where this goes. And I love that, because what I would tell young Jee is people are going to either get you or not. And don't waste time trying to force someone to get you. It's unfair to you, and it's not going to get you what you want. So that's what I would say.
I feel like it might relate to this, because I remember you mentioning earlier that you, early into the theater, once you set out from high school, you felt like there weren't like roles for you because of your ethnicity. And I can imagine that can be pretty deterring at times.
Yeah.
And my question that I'm curious about is, throughout that whole reflective journey that you just had and gave, what were kind of some moments, and was your ethnicity and not feeling like you had roles for you a factor of like that kind of felt like, I don't want to say like set you back, or that just were something that it was a barrier and it was an obstacle?
Yeah.
And how did you overcome that? How did you decide, okay, let's keep doing this? And has it gotten better over the years?
Yes, it has gotten better. I mean, there was a time you could not list 5 Asian people on TV. Now you sort of can, but it'd be a little bit hard depending on what you're watching. It has gotten better, but I think we're still far behind. And I don't think that's just a Asian character thing. I think that's an Asian storytelling problem. Like, we're still asking like the same old farts to tell us what kind of Asian stories to tell. You should ask Asian people what stories they want to tell. You know, like, they still want to do some. That's its own layer of crap. I would say one thing that really was mind-blowing was, this is the portion where I'm going to brag. In 2018, I was cast in this pilot for NBC called Like Magic, and it was so much fun. I played a magician, and
the Magic Castle, right?
We called it the Magic Palace, and it was such a wonderful, wonderful, great show, and I loved it. And what was so funny is, like, at that point, I did something amazing. Like, I don't have a huge Instagram following. It was solely like, it feels really good to book something really good, and it's solely based off of your talent, because they didn't know me. No one knew who I was. It was cool. I was the lead of it, and it was wonderful. And it didn't go. And NBC had offered me a deal, a talent holding deal, to basically develop a show for me. And it was a wonderful fun. It really made me such a cocky person. Like, I was like, I am a freaking star. But it was really funny, because about a year later, pilot season came. You know, I am notoriously a pilot killer. I could book one. Will it go? Who's to say? Probably not. I've done many pilots, but, you know, I auditioned for another pilot, and my agents are so wonderful, and they really push me. You know, I love that I have huge ambitions for myself, but they have bigger ones, and that's great support to have. But I remember I would audition for one, and immediately they were like, I auditioned for the lead because my agent pushed me for the lead, and they're like, maybe like the best friend. And it's like, I've heard it all. You know, it's like, of course. And their point of view was like, they were ready to offer me the best friend without it. I didn't even read. They don't even know if I'm right for the best friend. But their note for why not the lead was, they were like, I just don't know if she can lead a show. And it was such a thing to hear, because it wasn't even a me thing. It was such a moment where I realized, like, I already led a show. You could Google me and it shows I led a show. Like, NBC thought so. Why don't you? Like, I don't, and I realized like one thing that's really frustrating that I think is the problem between letting some cooler stories jump through is they could not imagine me leading a show because they haven't seen an Asian woman lead a show. They don't have a frame of reference about an Asian female leading a show that has nothing to do with being Asian. So they, like it's like when you open up the ethnicities, it's like something that I think Asian people can admit to is that when it comes to our race, it's like I am 100% my race. I cannot erase it. But I don't want to be defined by that. Like it's so much a part of me. Let's not pretend it's not there. But like, and I think that was so evident to be like, oh, they don't have the capacity to see me. They clearly think I'm talented. If they think that they're willing to offer me the second lead, but they don't have it. It's just not in their library of in their brain to think that way. And I think everyone wants to think that they can, but it's just not there. And I think it's because those stories aren't being told. Even with the Like Magic of it all, I remember it was Like Magic was such a wonderful story, but I think like somehow I met a couple Asian writers who were so excited. They're like, oh my God, finally an Asian lead in a story that has nothing to do. Like, of course she's Asian, but like, the two writers, one of them is Asian, they wrote her as Asian. And I want to be like, I think we want to believe in some sort of Cinderella story that like, they just found Jee. Finally, Hollywood has done it. They are doing colorblind casting. And finally, they found a girl to tell this great story. And I'm like, no, we're not there. Like, we're not there. We did it because you have two writers who wrote her as Asian, because if they didn't, I would not have gotten that role. Like, it just wouldn't, because I would have heard the same thing, which is, I don't think she could carry the show. But what happened was they insisted that she was Asian. They did not make any reference to the fact that she's Asian. And then that was something they had to do, and they had to cast it. And then they actually give someone a chance. They were looking for those people and they're surprised. But when it's not there, it's just like, it doesn't work for them because that's not the way it was. This is the systemic problem of our storytelling. We tell stories a certain way, and usually in a white narrative. And because of that, that's the obstacle to climb, which is we still need to tell Asian stories. But as an Asian American, we go, stop making me my ethnicity. It's, like I'm also American and that's a story. But if you keep telling me that my only value is my ethnicity, that's sad, because it's like, why is that my only value? Like, why do you only see race?
I remember you mentioned earlier that you also made content as well, because if I remember, it was, you said something along the lines of like, if you can't find the roles, or if there are no roles for you that you want to play, make your own content. Is that what got you into content making?
So first of all, when I was in New York, I made a web series. That was kind of like the first itch scratching of content making. And that was more because my friends and I were sitting around and Smash, that was it, right? Smash from NBC, like the musical, the Marilyn Monroe, that was up. And I think we were just kind of joking about how every musical theater story is very like Star is Born, like find someone and just like pivot them to stardom. Whereas like the acting business is not like that. It's really ugly. And also some people are really terrible. So like we wanted to actually highlight really untalented people. And like, that's like that, we thought that was funny. It was just like, we want to tell the truth of the industry. And as I progressed, like I said, I had like a deal at NBC. I worked on this we actually sold it. I met this writer, Cindy Fang. We sold this format, our version of a format. It was a show called Danny Lewinsky in Germany, and she wrote it for me. And I think it wasn't like, let's just write whatever I want to do. But I think it was the first time, one, I was not comfortable with them. Just like, I think I was very surprised by like, what do you want to do? But I think it was kind of a moment where I went, what annoys me about things that I auditioned for? What is important to me? And it was things that I feel like I said, which made it important to be like, what are ways we need to challenge storytelling? So for Danny Lewinsky, it was things like, I don't love that we have this, like, I watched the German version and I was like, I love it. She's a strong female character. You root for her. She's very like Elle Woods from Legally Blonde or like Ugly Betty. But I don't believe, like, where's her best friend? Why is she like not important in the picture? Why do we keep writing stories about strong females who don't have strong female friends? Like, it's like we've created this trap that only one person gets to be the coolest aspirational character. But I'm like, that's not true. I don't trust girls who say they don't get along with other girls. You're an insecure hot girl that is gonna be sour the rest of their life. And that's kind of what, it wasn't like me being full like feminist about it, but it was still like, what is important to me? If I had to, it's because I'm coming from the other point of view, right? I'm so used to reading supporting characters and going, these are not realized characters. Why is everything about their life just like, what do you want, main character? What about you? Let me listen to you be a mess. And I'm just like, why do we do that? Like, why am I auditioning for a character? Why doesn't she have Asian friends? I don't get it. Like, we've come into this like world where like women cannot have other women friends that are equally interesting and important with hopes and dreams. Asian people are either only Asian or like the only Asian in the entire world. And I think that was what was important. It stopped being like, what do I think is funny? Because everyone finds something funny, but I'm like, is this important? Is it funny? Is it because I just want a new point of view. I want it to feel truthful. And I think that's kind of it. It's things like, why do I want to tell this story? Like, why? Why does this make it fun? And I'm like, that is important because the types of connection I have with I have a lot of Asian friends. Like the way I connect to Asian people is very different than the way I connect to my non-Asian friends. And it's not better, it's not worse, it's different, and we don't see it. That's what it is. And I think that's what the content stuff is. It's like, I care about that. And even though we're still far behind, if I don't keep like annoying everyone about how important these stories are, then I will be frustrated with the quality of content out there.
That's a wonderful answer. And I can tell that your acting world has influenced your content creating world because as you said, you've auditioned for so many things where you're like, why isn't this in there? Or this doesn't really reflect like what I know of my culture that is partially being represented in here. So has the content creation side also helped reflect and help your acting side of things?
I think when it comes to storytelling, there's a lot of having to speak for yourself because I'm very fortunate when I get to do something and there is an Asian writer involved or an Asian director, because it's like I don't have to advocate for myself. And that does get exhausting to be like I remember I'm not going to speak words specifics, but I did something and like, they were like, okay, you enter the room. And it was supposed to be my sister's home. And they're like, you enter the room. And I was like, well, okay, well, I need to take my shoes off. Or like, we were just talking about like, we're laying in a bedroom and our shoes are off. And like listening to people be like, you got to wear your shoes. I'm like, I'm not wearing combat, but like what Asian person is wearing shoes indoors? I woke up in the morning. Shoes. I put on the shoes when I leave. But I was like, I can't believe I'm having this conversation. Like, I should say that. And I think, yes, when I think about what I want to do, how I want my story told, I think it helps me as an actor be true to that versus trying to do something that's going to make other people happy. Because I think it helps me be true to myself. And I think somehow a lot of Asian people were trying to figure out how we fit in a white narrative of Hollywood. And I'm just kind of like, I don't care anymore. Like, I just want to be myself, you know, and if they have a problem with it, that's their own problem, you know, like, so yes, I think really like in an ideal space, I don't have to do that. And one thing that's really interesting is like, you know, trying to navigate Perry Mason, trying to understand specifically the time period, the racism of that and all that stuff. And separately getting to work on Unprisoned was wonderful because in Unprisoned, you know, it's predominantly a Black family, a Black story, we have like, you know, Tracy McMillan and Yvette Lee Bowser and everyone. So it was interesting because I think that they embraced that, like they embraced it. And I also didn't have to feel like I couldn't say something. Like they wanted to, they made me feel so open. And I think the bigger picture of all of that is when you think about what content you want to actually do and what you want to see, you will learn to fight for that when you are doing content that is not in your control.
I know a lot of people, particularly one in the chat with us, who really enjoys working with you, and I enjoy working with you as well. But you're really great at connecting with people, whether it's a scene partner, whether it's crew or whatever. But as you expressed, sometimes there are moments when you don't really get along with people, or you are with somebody who is saying something that's bothering you.
Yes.
And how do you create relationships and manage relationships with your scene partners? And when you do run into those semi-toxic or entirely toxic situations with cast or crew, how do you manage those?
You know, it's hard because when these spaces that we work in feel, sometimes I kind of remind myself it's all kind of a facade. It's why, you know, you get to be vulnerable with these people. You are doing something, but I'm like, I remind myself it's a facade. This is why showmances don't always work, because you fell in love with an idea of feeling, not the person. Sometimes they work, but that's a separate conversation. But I've worked with many people who suck. And what I think about it is I just put it in a little list in my brain of people that I would never work with again. And you just be the bigger person, because that's all you can do. You know, like, I think it depends on the degree of toxicity. Like, you know, if someone is a misogynist and is saying something rude, that's one thing. That's a very, like, that's something that should come up, because that doesn't need to happen. But the reality is there's lots of egos, because everyone is stressed in these situations. And it depends, you know, it's like, is it an actor? Is it somehow it's rarely a crew member. Crew members are usually very awesome. But the reality is usually like actors or people above the line tend to be the ones who abuse that kind of position they're in. I think one of the things I can think about is I did a pilot once in Toronto, and I played a cop, and people really loved to hire me as a cop. And I don't think it's because they think I could save people, but I just think like I am the face of someone you want there when you're being saved. They're like, oh, that girl's a good time. She's fun. But I was playing a cop, and that's not that important to the story. But I remember I was going to craft services, because why not? And the person who was the head of the craft services yelled at me, like screamed at me. I was with someone else. I was with like maybe my costumer, I believe. And because it was a long time ago, he screamed at me because he was like, background's not supposed to be in here. And he was just livid. And it was such a strange moment, because like immediately the customer's like, she's one of our leads. Like, you can't talk to her that way. And I think that the reality, I was like, you can't talk to anyone that way. Like, why are you talking to me that way? But like, truly, that was like one moment. And he was, you know, tail between his legs, like, oh crap. But I was like, don't talk to anyone that way. Just say sorry, you're not supposed to be in here. Here's a Snickers. Bye. Like, don't do that. But the reality is it's mostly like actors are usually the abusers of that kind of power. And I think that all you can do is be kind, like don't challenge it. And, you know, sometimes with actors, when they're doing that, they're feeling really insecure. But I've met some very salty actors and I just put them in their brain. And all you have to remind yourself is it's a facade to believe that this is going to be summer camp and everyone's going to get along because we get to do this really cool thing. It just is, and everyone's stressed, and you just show up and you be a professional. And I think that's all you can do, and you just make a note of it. You just go, these are the reasons I wouldn't work with this person again, and that's usually just like they're a crappy person. And then if it's problematic, something else happens. Your antennas start going. You go, how do I fix this? How do I do this? But yeah, I think that's the answer. I think you got to be professional. It's not my job to fix someone and to teach them to be respectful. But all you can do is show up and be the best version of yourself, the kindest version of yourself, and hope that reflects and encourages people to stop being little dicks.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it worked out well for you because if I also remember right, you said you met your fiance on set.
I did not meet him on set. We met him the old-fashioned way on a dating app.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
The old-fashioned way on a dating app. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, this is why. I think like we want to say, oh, be kind to everyone. Like we want to be like. I love when. One thing I like to tell a lot of my actor friends when they like to be like, oh, that person's awful to work with. Oh, they're not even talented. Like those are the fun things we want to say, right? But I go, hey, so this is Hollywood, and very untalented people and very awful people succeed all the time. And don't let it get to you. Just don't let it get to you. I think we want to believe that there's some sort of karma that will happen. I was like, that's just not true. Yeah. But those people are unhappy. People who act that way are very unhappy, and that just let them be miserable. Don't letting miserable people affect you is just a disservice to yourself. You just find ways to worry about yourself. But I think the core thing to remember is be professional. Just be professional. That's all you have to do. You don't have to, not everyone has to love you, and you don't have to love everyone.
I 100% agree with you. I do that a lot with the many sets that I'm on. But yeah, no, I mean, I think I'm about out of questions for now. Jeff, are there any that?
Yeah, I was just thinking, where do people find you? I saw Instagram, the G spot, right?
Yeah, at the JEE spot. Pretty much any Vaughn's grocery store between 4 to 7 p.m. Because if you go to the bakery between 4 to 7 p.m. and the bread is not warm, it's free. That's where you can find me hitting up Vaughn's at 3:59. It's slowly just waiting to touch every bread.
So one thing Jeff and I like to do, G, is we like to kind of end the show with opening up the floor to you to really talk about I guess if there's anything that's been on your mind or perspective that's changed that you think people should consider, and you can reflect and double down on a point that we've already discussed, or you can talk about something else that doesn't relate to PCAP or the industry at all. But just is there anything on your mind or anything that you'd like people to leave with to consider? Think.
Let me think about this.
Okay.
We've talked about so much.
I know.
Okay. Everyone is here because people either love PCAP or curious, or, people want to act and people want to tell these stories. All I can say is I'm really grateful you guys asked me to be on here, because I think something that people don't do within this industry is stay connected. I think people only stay connected if someone can offer them something. And something that I've kind of been saying a lot to to some friends of mine is that sometimes I feel a little lonely within this industry. I really, really crave community. And it's really hard because it's not a feeling of like, oh, FOMO, like, what about me? That's not what it is. It's because like we do really hard things. We're just trying to all make magic. And somehow everyone's just so gatekeepy, and I think what's really wonderful about this podcast is I don't think the PCAP world is gatekeepy. It's just hard to crack, it's just like, I didn't like kind of most VO world too. Like I don't really like calling myself a voiceover artist because I feel like I meet some and they're so freaking talented. Like they're so good that I don't think I have that, but I have also worked a lot. So I am a voiceover artist, but the world is so welcoming, the PCAP world, but no one knows how to get into it. They just need to, they feel like it's that. So I think it's just, I urge everyone and to reach out to people you really vibed with and just reach out. It doesn't have to be anything. Do you want to grab coffee? But I see that in myself. I feel like I've met actors and I say like, yeah, I'd love to hang out. And like the second they like, hey, you want to grab coffee? I'm immediately like, are they obsessed with me? I have a fucking boyfriend. Like, I'm just like, I immediately like clam up. And like, on one hand, some people are annoying like that. Some people like to network for the sake of networking. But I'm talking about like, let's get rid of the aspect of networking. Networking is like this industry term for like a shortcut to success.
Yeah.
Community is networking, but it's genuine and it's coming from a real place. Like I don't recommend actors that I just happen to have met because I networked with them. I recommend people I've worked with and that I've had great experiences with. And it's not because they keep texting me, but that's a community. It's a community. It's because I like them as a person and I like them as a performer. And I think that's kind of the bigger thing of it all. I think somehow the self-tape world has made us feel very lonely. The pandemic made us feel very lonely. Wanting a job has made us feel very lonely. We're all very like, oh no, what are we going to do? Like, like this strike. And it's like, let's just all, I think everyone needs to take a second and go like, you don't have to reach out to your friend when you have cool news to share. You don't, real people do not care about your success. They believe in you that it's going to happen now or never or whatever, but they still love you and think you have so much to offer. And I think it's really wonderful that you're doing this because I think people sometimes feel the PCAP world is very exclusive. And I'm like, I don't think it is. I just think they're just trying to do a job. And sometimes it's like hard to get it, like it's hard to do it. But just like throwing this out there, like, I don't think I would have even gotten to do Dragon Age had I not done Anthem, had I not met Caroline Livingstone, who's no longer at BioWare, but she really believed in me. And that's important. Like, that's really important. Like, that's cool to be like, that wasn't gatekeepy. She literally took a chance on me. And now I get to, do whatever I do in Dragon Age. Stay tuned. But I think people, if we all try to realize that, finding community, if we all realize that and really seek it out, I think it'll make us better actors. It'll make us feel more fulfilled, and it'll kind of get rid of the icky, gross feelings of Hollywood that kind of affect us a lot.
Well, thanks for saying that, Jee. That's kind and a great way to end the episode. So.
Yeah.
What a
kumbaya. Very kumbaya. I'm like, don't invite me to anything. I'm tired. But I'm very kumbaya.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Jee, for
Thank you so
hopping
much.
on. It's been a blast. And
this was so much fun.